Okay, so hello guys. Today we are going to start Article 16, okay, in fundamental rights. Okay, so Article 16 means it says equality in opportunities in matters of public employment. Equality in opportunities in public employment. Okay, now what is public employment? Public employment simply means government employment. Why? Because the word public simply denotes to government. Okay? Word public. Basically the word public in USA denotes to government. All the public hospitals, public schools in USA denote to government hospitals, government schools. Similarly, in India also the word public denotes to government. So public employment in India also means government employment. Article 16 provides equality of opportunity in terms of government employment. Okay. So it says that no citizen can be discriminated against for any employment under the state on the ground only of religion, race, caste, sex, descent, place of birth or residence, right? This is the language of Article 16. Okay, I will repeat, no citizen can be discriminated against for any employment under the state on the grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, gender and this descent, place of birth or residence. Okay. So this thing is there, but there are three exceptions to this rule. There are three exceptions. As there are exceptions in every fundamental right, so there are exceptions in this fundamental right also. What are these exceptions? Let us examine. The first exception is Parliament can prescribe residence. Residence here means local residence. Parliament can prescribe residence as a condition for certain employment. Okay. Now Parliament in the past had provided residence as a qualification for a certain employment, okay, which are necessary of course. Okay, in future the Parliament again can do so. Okay, in the past it has also done so. Okay, and now for this purpose an act was passed by the Parliament, and this act was called as Public Employment Requirement as to Residence Act 1957. Okay, and this act has already expired in 1974. It no longer exists. It has already expired. And according to this act, there is no such provision for any state except Andhra Pradesh. Basically the thing was, in Andhra Pradesh some employment was there which needed local people. So therefore the Parliament provided for that the qualification for residence in Andhra Pradesh. But after that no such act has been passed. Okay, so if there is some talk of qualification as a residence, the Parliament can pass an act in the future. Okay, but at present there is no such act. Let us now come to the second exception. The first exception was regarding residence as a qualification for public employment. Now let us come to the second condition. What it says: the state can provide for reservation for any backward class not represented adequately in the state service. This is very important exception. It does not say any residence, place of birth, whatever. It simply makes a very generalized statement, and that generalized statement is this. It reads as: the state can provide for reservation for any backward class not represented adequately in the state services. So it simply says that state can provide reservation. Now one thing is very important here, and it is at one point Article 16 says that the state will provide equality of opportunity in case of public employment, whereas in the second exception, exception B, the Constitution itself says that state can provide for reservation for backward classes if the state feels that they are not adequately represented in the state services. So both these things are contradictory to each other. At one time, the Constitution is providing for Article 16 and it says that there will be equality of opportunity in public employment, whereas at the same time it provides an exception as well that the state can provide for reservation if it feels that the backward classes are not represented adequately in the state services. Both these points are like opposite to each other, contradictory to each other, but exceptions are always contradictory to each other. We have to understand this. Okay, this is very important. Now, therefore, we all know that in India, all public employment are having a reservation in them. Okay. And let us now come to exception C, which says that a law can provide that the incumbent of an office related to religious institution should belong to that religion. Now here it says that, for example, a job is related to a religious institution. For example, there are different shrine boards, Mata Vaishno Devi Shrine Board, there is Shiromani Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee, SGPC, and there are similar organizations for Muslims also, which take care of Muslim religious affairs. Now it is very apparent that Muslims will work in those organizations which are having Muslim affairs. Sikhs will be there in SGPC, right? And Shri Mata Vaishno Devi Shrine Board, although it's a government body, it is not a semi-government body, but let us say that there are certain Hindu organizations which are semi-government or private even, or even managed by government, or basically these are autonomous bodies. They are neither government nor private, they are autonomous bodies. For example, SGPC is an autonomous body. Okay, it is not answerable to the government. Okay, so it is an autonomous body. So these organizations will have the incumbents, employees of that religion only. Okay, so one Hindu cannot say that I am like not accepted by the SGPC. Okay, so simple thing is there, that this exception provides that a person belonging to a particular community can serve in that religious organization belonging to that particular community. Okay, so the Sikhs will work in Sikh religious affairs organizations, Muslims will work in Muslim religious affairs organizations, and Hindus will work in Hindu religious affairs organizations, right? So these are the three exceptions. Among the three, the second one, that is providing for reservation in government services, is the most important. Okay, and now we come to, after discussing these three exceptions to Article 16, now we move to Mandal Commission report, its recommendations, and the government's action on those recommendations. This Mandal Commission report is of significance here. Okay. In 1979, there was Morarji Desai government in India. It was the first non-Congress government in India, post-independent India, headed by late Shri Morarji Desai as Prime Minister. Now, he set up a commission called as Mandal Commission, okay, and it was the second backward class commission, and it was headed by B.P. Mandal, who was a member of parliament at that time, B.P. Mandal, okay. So, Morarji Desai set up this Mandal Commission under Article 340, which says that a commission can be appointed for the upliftment of backward classes. Okay. This commission was basically appointed to investigate the conditions of socially and educationally backward classes and suggest measures for their advancement, for their upliftment. Okay. So, this Mandal Commission, which was appointed for seeing that whether the backward classes are represented properly in government jobs or not, okay, backward classes. It gave its report, the Mandal Commission gave its report after 1 year, that is in 1980. It was appointed in 1979, it gave its report in 1980, and it was a significant report which created a huge controversy in India. It said that there are 3743, that is 3743 castes, okay, which are socially and educationally backward classes. Okay, how many? 3743 castes which are socially and educationally backward classes and which comprise approximately 52% of the Indian population, excluding scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. This is very important, excluding scheduled castes. So, these 3743 castes were the castes which were socially and educationally backward, and these were the castes which did not come under scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. These were later called as other backward classes. Okay. Now, the Mandal Commission gave certain recommendations, and the recommendations were these castes, which it called as other backward classes, should be given 27% reservation in government jobs, 27% reservation in government jobs, and in such ratio that the total reservation in India for scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and other backward classes should not exceed 50%. Okay, the Mandal Commission recommended that 27% reservation should be made for OBCs, and in such a manner that SC, ST and OBCs comprise a total reservation of not more than 50% of the government jobs. Okay. Let us say 100 vacancies are there, the 50% will be reserved for SC, ST and OBCs. The rest of the 50% will be open for everybody, including the general category. Okay. Now, these recommendations came in which year? 1980. Now, the government did not do anything. Okay. And after 10 years, VP Singh government came to power, and in 1990, VP Singh government, when it was in power, what it did, it implemented this recommendation. That is, it gave 27% reservation to OBCs in government jobs. and by doing this, VP Singh government faced huge wrath by the common people, especially the youth. The youth came in front of the universities, colleges in Delhi and other places all over India, and they burnt themselves. The youth burnt themselves, self-immolation. They used to put kerosene oil on themselves and put themselves on fire, and several youth were killed. Of course, they belonged to general category because they thought that their jobs were being taken away by the OBCs and SC/STs. Okay. Now, in 1991, Narasimha government, that is Congress government, because Narasimha Rao was Congress Prime Minister, came to power. I forgot to tell you that VP Singh was non-Congress Prime Minister, and Morarji Desai was also non-Congress Prime Minister, and his OBC reservation, that is Mandal Commission, which was appointed by Morarji Desai, and the VP Singh government which implemented the Mandal Commission, this VP Singh and Morarji Desai both belonged to non-Congress governments. So basically OBC reservation is a gift of non-Congress government in India. Okay, Janata Dal government basically. So in 1991, Congress government came to power headed by Narasimha Rao, and now you may feel that if after 1 year Narasimha Rao came to power and he was a congressman, why he did not reverse the decision of VP Singh? Why Narasimha Rao did not reverse the decision of VP Singh, that is refusing the provision of 27% reservation to the OBC? Why Narasimha Rao did not do that? Because if he would do that, the other backward classes would never vote for Congress in future. So Congress government did not do it, because if Congress government would do it, it would lose the OBC vote share. So it did not take a risk. So Narasimha Rao government, what it did? It brought two changes in what VP Singh did. Okay, so basically Narasimha Rao made two changes in 27% reservation for OBCs. What were these two changes? A, preference to poorer sections of OBCs. He said that reservation will be continued, 27% reservation will be continued, but it will be preferred that it is given to the poorer sections of these OBCs and not the richer sections. Okay, and the B part, reservation of another 10% for the poor sections of higher castes, general category. Narasimha Rao said that the general category, the poor people belonging to the general category should also be provided 10% reservation. Okay. Now, after these two changes, what happened? There was one more development, that in 1992 a case was there in the Supreme Court, Mandal case, famous Mandal case in 1992. In this 1992 case, Supreme Court gave certain judgments. Supreme Court rejected the 10% reservation provided by the Narasimha Rao government for the higher castes. Okay, Supreme Court rejected this thing. Okay, what it rejected? The 10% reservation for the higher castes which the Congress government had provided in 1991, sorry. Okay, and the Supreme Court accepted the 27% reservation for OBCs, but Supreme Court also said that A, the advanced section of the OBC, that is creamy layer, advanced sections mean richer section of the OBCs, that is creamy layer, should be excluded from the reservation. Got? And the B part, what Supreme Court said was, B part, no reservation in the promotions Okay, no reservation in the promotions. Now what happened was this, that these OBCs and SC/STs got jobs in the government in the first place, and when the case of promotion was there, even then they were promoted on the basis of reservation. So I mean to say that in promotions also reservation rule applied, but the Supreme Court said that this reservation rule should this promotion rule, that the reservation should not be given in promotions. The Supreme Court held this in the Mandal case. The third part of what Supreme Court said was this, that the total reservation quota should not exceed 50% of the total advertised posts. Okay, except in some extraordinary circumstances. Okay. Fourth part of what Supreme Court said, that the carry forward vacancies, okay, carry forward vacancies is valid. This thing is valid. For example, there are 10 vacancies for OBCs, SC/STs in a particular year, and exams are held, and only 9 are occupied, one is left. Because nobody could score enough marks to get that vacancy. So this vacancy is left. So whether this one vacancy should be left or it should be carried forward and added to the vacancies which are advertised next year. The Supreme Court said it should be carried forward to the next year. So this was the carry forward rule. The Supreme Court said it was okay. You should go with it. You should carry it forward. This rule is okay, this rule is right. And the fifth part, E part, what Supreme Court said was this, a permanent statutory body should be established to examine the complaints of over inclusion or under inclusion in the OBCs. The Supreme Court held that a permanent statutory commission should be established. Why? Now, whenever something is done, there are certain disputes in it. Now, the government made a rule of 27% reservation. Now, definitely there will be huge uproar every year. Certain people will be left from that 27%, and they will go to whom? They will go to courts. That we are not included in 27%. Why we are not included? We do not come under creamy layer. We are poor. So the Supreme Court held that a permanent statutory commission should be established. The role of that permanent statutory commission would be to examine the complaints arising out of the reservation thing. Okay. Now these were the decisions of the Supreme Court in the Mandal case. Now what the government took, what the government's actions were on these Supreme Court judgments. Number one, the government appointed Ram Nandan Commission. The government appointed Ram Nandan. The government appointed Ram Nandan Commission. The government appointed Ram Nandan Commission for what? To identify the creamy layer among the OBCs. Now, the Supreme Court held that OBCs would have a creamy layer. Okay, so it was the duty of the government to identify the creamy layer. So it appointed Ram Nandan Commission for this role, to identify the creamy layer among the OBCs. Ram Nandan Commission. It was appointed by Narasimha Rao government. The next thing, big thing which the government did on the directions of Supreme Court was National Commission for Backward Classes was established. As you saw that Supreme Court had directed that a permanent statutory commission should be there to examine the complaints arising out of the 27% reservation for OBCs. So what the government did, it appointed a national commission for backward classes. Okay. So this was all in the Article 16, which was right to equality in public employment. Okay. So we did Article 16 today. We studied what the Article 16 provided for, we studied the exceptions in it, then we studied the Mandal Commission report appointed by Morarji Desai government, then we studied the aftermath of the Mandal Commission report, then we studied the VP Singh government's implementation of the Mandal Commission report, and then we studied the Narasimha Rao government's actions on the Mandal Commission report, and then we studied this Mandal Commission, Mandal case in the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court's rulings in the case and the government's action on Supreme Court's rulings. Okay. So this is on today's lecture. Tomorrow we will do our next article, that is Article 17. Thanks for today.